Week 3 of semifinals is in the books. The professor teaches the competition a lesson at the Granite Games, while youth go wild in Minnesota. Roman racks up a win, and team favorites live up to the hype in South Korea. Plus, a look ahead to the last week of semifinals next on Game Central. Hi, everybody. Welcome to a semifinals edition of Game Central presented by Trifecta, the official meal delivery partner of CrossFit. I'm Sean Woodland, and we are now through 3 of 4 weeks of semifinals. 7 more men, women, and teams are heading to the 2022 Noble CrossFit Games. We had one semifinal take place in Asia. That was the Far East Throwdown. More on that in a second. And then we also had the Granite Games take place in Eagan, Minnesota. And for more on that semifinal, let's send it out to Joel Godet and Chase Ingram, who are on the call.
The 2022 Granite Games are in the books alongside Chase Ingram, Joel Godet. Chase, we start with teams. It wouldn't be a CrossFit Games if Invictus wasn't present, and the affiliate from San Diego is sending a team again.
Baker's dozen, the 13th time Invictus has qualified for the CrossFit Games consecutively, and they did it with dominating fashion. A 30-point lead over OBA. Move fast, lift heavy moves into third. Greater Heights coming out of Texas, getting their bid to the CrossFit Games, and Rhapsody hanging on at the end. Did what they needed to do to make the top 5.
On the women's side, interesting at the top of the leaderboard, not because it wasn't expected, but because for Mal O'Brien, with all of the hype she's had over the last year, people forget, she wins the Granite Games. It's her first CrossFit win.
First that, and then cap on what she's done so far. She won quarterfinals for North America. She won the Open worldwide. That's the trifecta. There's one left in Madison, Wisconsin. But for Mal O'Brien, the performance she put on this weekend was very, very impressive. But Amanda Barnhart as well, taking second overall. Danny Spiegel moving your top 10. But that wild finish we had at the end between these 3 ladies, Gazan, Rolfe, and Wilson, unfortunately, just missing out by 1 spot.
Chloe Wilson finishes 1 spot out of qualification for the 2nd time in her career. She was 7th last year at the West Coast Classic. As we look on the men's side, maybe a little less surprising who finished out on top. Brent Fikowski, when he competes live, he is here to compete. He wins based on what he did in the last event.
It took him 6 events to get there, however, so he got the edge over Phil Toon at the very end. But Toon making his rookie debut at the games coming up. Quant sneaking back up there. Just that slow burn all weekend for Samuel Quant. I thought it was a wonderful performance by him. Travis Mayer. Mayer's going to the games for the 8th time in his career, and then Mertens holding on to the end with yet another heartbreaking finish for Nick Matthew.
The name that we don't see there, though, is interesting because Chandler Smith finishes his best event in 5th place of the 6 events that he had. He will not be going to the CrossFit Games.
You know, we were watching Chandler Smith all weekend, and the one thing we kept saying is that this doesn't look like Chandler Smith. The way he looked during the competition in certain events is that I don't know what it was. I'm not going to speculate, but what I know is that's not the Chandler Smith we knew. That's not the Chandler Smith that we know that he is. I'd be curious to see what it was.
5 men, 5 women, 5 teams heading to the CrossFit Games from the Granite Games. Brent Fikowski, Mal O'Brien, CrossFit Invictus are your winners.
Thank you, guys. The other semifinal that took place was over in South Korea. It was the Far East Throwdown. 2 spots on the line for the men, women, and the teams. And here are your qualifiers from that semifinal who will be heading to Madison, Wisconsin to compete at the CrossFit Games. For the teams, no surprise, KT CrossFit Kolesnikov team, they finish in first, followed by CrossFit Yas Black. On the women's side, Sung Young Choi, she's coming back to the CrossFit Games. Sarah Kaya will finish in second. She's out of Turkey. And for the men, Roman Khrennikov takes the competition victory, followed by Nasir Alouea. Khrennikov wins as expected, but Alouea, a big surprise, just 29 years old out of Kuwait. He was 23rd at the 2021 CrossFit Asia Invitational semifinal. He had 1 event win, and all of his finishes were inside the top 5. On the women's side, Sung Young Choi was nearly perfect. She had 4 event wins to start off the competition, a 2nd and a 3rd on day 3, and training partner Nuon Jung finishes in 3rd. 24-year-old Sarah Kaya will make her first appearance at the games. Once again, she is representing the country of Turkey. And then finally on the team side, KT CrossFit Kolesnikov team and CrossFit Yas Black were the favorites coming in. and they did exactly what they needed to do, separating themselves from the pack early, and they are the top 2 teams from the Far East Throwdown who will be competing in Madison at the 2022 Noble CrossFit Games. Congratulations to all the qualifiers from this past weekend. This week, there are 3 more semifinals on the schedule for the 4th and final week of competition. Let's start over in Europe, the second of 2 semifinals over there taking place. It's Strength and Depth in the UK. Here's Lauren Smith with a preview.
Let's take a little look at the key stories as we head towards Europe's second semi-final, CrossFit Strength and Depth. Now, on any given day, you would look at this roster, you'd see 7-time CrossFit Games athlete Yonakoski's name, and you'd jump to the assumption that with 4 top 10 Games finishes, he would take the semi-final with flying colours. However, there is a Frenchman who might beg to differ. Willie Georges placed an impressive 2nd in Europe in this year's quarterfinals, behind none other than Bjorn Carl Gudmundsson. It was enough for a 9th worldwide, and he topped that off with a 5th place finish in the off-season competition, the Dubai CrossFit Championships. Now, it was his first major elite appearance back from injury, and it's safe to say he's looking back to his old self. The battle between these two, I think, is going to dominate the weekend on the men's side, but I am completely happy to be proved wrong because there could be a couple of wildcards to upset that status quo. You can expect to see the likes of Giorgio Caravis, Andre Houdet, and Alex Koutalis all in contention for a ticket to Madison. But what about the best of the British? Because it's no secret, a home advantage can really play a part in proceedings. Now, 3 individual appearances between them, PD Savage and perhaps more so Elliot Simmons, have that experience of what it takes to perform at this level. Zach George as well and Reggie Fasser also proven their ability to challenge at the top. Zach unable, unfortunately, to utilise his Games ticket as national champion back in 2020, and Reggie Fasser topping Europe in the 2021 Open. Needless to say, there is some serious depth in this men's field, and I haven't even had a chance to mention Games athletes like Henrique Hapalainen or Simon Mentila yet. So I think at minimum, we're looking at 9-10 likely qualifiers and only 5 spots. The intensity of that men's field is going to be insane. And we're not going to be short of entertainment in the women's field either. We'll see 2-time CrossFit Games champion Katrin Davidsdeuter back on a competition floor for the first time, in fact, since she left Ben Bergeron to go back to Iceland on a more permanent basis. She's now under the guidance of Jami Taikanen. That's the coach of BKG, Annie Thorasdeuter, and of course her Games-bound team out of CrossFit Reykjavik. The CrossFit programmed workout, you know the one, the legless rope climbs and the running, it's what famously prevented Katrin from progressing to the CrossFit Games back in 2014. So crowds can expect Katrin to silence a few past demons when she takes to the floor in London this weekend. But she's not a shoo-in for that top step because there is stiff competition in Europe. And at the top of that list is 2021's 12th fittest on earth, Emma McQuaid. She's fresh from winning Wodapalooza. And the Irish woman followed that up with a 2nd place in Europe in this season's quarterfinals. She was only bested by Gabriella Magala, who's already punched her ticket. So Emma's been building up to the weekend, training with the UK's Golden Girl Samantha Briggs, who's taken up a backfill spot to also compete in the individual elite category. It would be easy to maybe overlook Sam Briggs, but you would be stupid to do so. Just because she didn't initially qualify, you cannot forget her 4th place finish in the Dubai CrossFit Championship, where she beat the likes of Turi Helgadottir, Evie Hollis and Jacqueline Dahlström, all of whom are going to feature in SID. Elsewhere in the women's field, you've also got 2021's LCQ winner and 2-time Games athlete Emma Tall, and I mentioned already 6-time Games competitor Helga Deuter and the programme's Jacqueline Dahlström. Between 2019 and 2021, Dahlström improved her Games performance from 45th to 17th and came 2nd in last year's online German Throwdown semi-final. Recent results also include a 5th in the Dubai CrossFit Championship. That environment in Mallorca under John Singleton, in which he trains, wielded results in Lowlands, and I expect we'll see more of his team push for tickets for the Games this weekend, Jacqueline most certainly amongst them. Now, can CrossFit Oslo become the first European team in history to send multiple teams to the CrossFit Games? They actually have 2 teams competing this weekend, but all eyes are on the top seed, 2021's 2nd fittest team on earth, CrossFit Oslo Navy Blue. Now, that's after their 6th place finish worldwide in the team quarterfinals, and they topped the European team leaderboard. Now, their 2nd team, CrossFit Oslo Purple Red, have already qualified through Lowlands Throwdown, and these are just a few of the many stories that are going to play out across the weekend in London. Just make sure you tune into the live stream because you are not going to want to miss a beat. Back to you, Sean.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Meanwhile, the other two semifinals taking place, one is in North America. That is the Atlas Games. That is going to be in Quebec, Canada. The other is CrossFit Copa Sur. That is down in Brazil. Here's Tommy Marquez with a closer look at both of those semifinals.
Thanks, Sean. After back-to-back semifinal weeks with just 2 events taking place, we have 3 competitions this weekend taking place on 3 separate continents. And to close things out for semifinals, we have 36 games invites up for grabs, and here are the major storylines from each one of them. Down in Brazil at the Copa Sur, and the big question in the team competition is who's going to join Q21 CrossFit at the Games this year. Last year, it was Formix Brazil, but they've disbanded, and the race at quarterfinals was close between King Bull CrossFit Paraguay and BXP CrossFit. King Bull got the nod in the quarters thanks to an event win in the final one of the weekend, but as we've seen already in Cape Town, Far East, or Torreon, for semifinals with fewer spots, the teams in qualifying spots after the quarterfinals stayed there after semifinals. So we could be seeing Paraguay's first team at the Games in this semifinal season. In the women's division, we will have 2 entirely new qualifiers for the CrossFit Games this season after Sasha Nievas decided to go team with Mayhem Independence. Melina Rodriguez has prior individual experience and looks to be the favorite, but realistically, there are 5 to 6 women in the mix for 2 spots. Julia Cato, Victoria Campos, Valentina Rangel were the next 3 athletes rank-wise last year and finished in the top 5 at quarters this season. But the emergence of Loaiza Marquez, a former teenage division games athlete, as the top seed after winning quarterfinals adds a splash of intrigue after she spent the offseason training in the UAE alongside Cato. In the men's division, all eyes will be on Guy Mayeros for his breakout season at the Games last year and his move in the offseason to train at CrossFit Mayhem. He's a heavy favorite, but he got beat in semifinals last year by Agustin Riquelme. This will be our first live look at how the training in Cookeville, Tennessee has helped him shore up some aspects of his game and hopefully become the definitive torchbearer for the foreseeable future in South America, no matter the stage of competition. The only 2 athletes close to him in the quarterfinals were Riquelme and Nico Bidarte, both of whom have worked under the Mayhem LATAM banner this season. Heading up to Montreal now for the Atlas Games, and the team competition is really up for grabs. The 4 games teams in the field from last year, Pro 1 Montreal, CrossFit 1855, CrossFit Resurrection, and CrossFit Omnia Black all return rosters with some changes from last season. And the top qualifier out of quarterfinals, CrossFit PSC, wasn't at semifinals last season. So with the 3 of 4 workouts programmed by Atlas featuring heavy synchro elements or the worm, or both, will the established teams be able to lean on experience to shine yet again? That is the big question. In the women's division last year at the Atlas Games, the virtual competition was bonkers, with 9 of the top 10 women overall being in legitimate contention for a spot until the end. 5 of those women have already qualified in other divisions or from other semifinals already, leaving Carolyn Prevot, 17-year-old Emma Lawson, and 20-year-old Freya Moosberger as the lead returning athletes from a year ago, and all 3 have a legitimate shot at winning. Prevot won the Atlas Games last year, and Lawson and Moosberger were in the top 13 or better in North America after quarterfinals this season. Some exciting stuff is in the mix from the Canadian women. Lastly, in the men's division, the King of the North, Patrick Vellner, will try to fend off a pack of free folk north of the wall, and that includes Jeffrey Adler, Alex Vigneault, Alexander Caron. They are the 3 Canadian Games returnees that competed alongside Vellner at Atlas virtually last season. But a new Canadian male has joined the conversation as well in Jack Farlow. They will all be trying to take the throne from Vellner after his return to top form resulted in a 4th CrossFit Games podium and the closest he's ever come to the title of fittest on earth. Before I go, a special shout out goes out to the Atlas Games crew. I was there in Montreal back in 2020 when the event got shut down just a couple of hours after athlete check-in, the day before the event was set to kick off. It's been 2 years since then. They're finally back to live in-person competition, and I know the road has not been easy, so hats off to the Atlas Game crew up in Montreal. It's crazy to think that we are in the final week of semifinals, Sean, and after this weekend, we'll have the full 8-team games roster. We'll have 30 of the 40 game spots filled for the individuals in both divisions. So it's important to keep those in mind and those major storylines as we watch all of the action this weekend.
Thanks so much, Tommy. Really looking forward to watching all of the action this weekend. Once again, here are the 3 semifinals that will be held in the 4th and final week of competition. Strength and Depth, CrossFit Atlas Games, CrossFit Copa Sur, and you can keep up with all the action on games.crossfit.com. And remember, we held the age group online semifinals and the adaptive online semifinals as well. And the leaderboards for those competitions will be finalized on June 8th. And once again, if you have not already, you need to check out the first 4 episodes of Miles to Madison. Those are available now on the CrossFit Games YouTube channel. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Good luck to all the athletes and teams competing in the 4th and final weekend of semifinals, and congratulations to everybody who has already qualified for the 2022 Noble CrossFit Games. I'm Sean Woodland, and we'll talk to you next time.